So now Dr. Leslie Saxon, Joe Perez, who was just on the dais as co-founder, Tastemade, board member of the USC Center for Body Computing, Janet Marchibroda, Executive Director and CEO of Council on Health and Innovation at Bipartisan Policy Center, and returning again is Harel Kodesh, Operating Partner, Silver Lake, former Vice President of Predix, and former Chief Technology Officer, GE Digital. Let's welcome them all.
I'm only going to say two things. We put people through an endurance test here at this conference because we want to jam a lot in, and thank you. You passed. These are the lone survivors. So I know it's a lot, and every year we say we're not going to do it, but we have so much to show. So thank you very much for doing it. And I just want to ask people what their impressions of the day were, but I want to thank our staff. We have an amazing staff. Brad, you're amazing. Brooks, Josiah, I don't think I thanked you, from Camp Pendleton. You were crazy good. And our ICT, Hussein, Mona, Glenn, we have Jack, we have an amazing team. We are kind of a garage band. So I just want to thank them all because they really put everything into this. That's it.
Oh, I'm going now, huh? All right. So yeah, no, I think, again, appreciate everybody it is amazing to see this many people focusing on I think the same problem, but coming at it from different ways. And I think I've always been doing this, I think, for the last 10 years now, but the conference has always been an amazing gathering of really smart people. And I think the thing that I've always tried to push is, this is not going to be an incremental reinvention or incremental change. Healthcare needs a complete reinvention. And I think over the last, let's just even say 5 years, other industries that are less important, I'd say, have completely reinvented themselves. And I mean, like, Harel and I were talking about it yesterday, but just look at what Uber did. Uber didn't just kind of incrementally say, let's make a platform for the medallion system, right, in San Francisco, and then have a bunch of these people coming into a system. They completely verticalized the whole thing, and they went from the top to the bottom and said, we're going to be the brand, and then we're going to have this fleet, and then we're going to methodically go from black car to X to whatever the other 5 different things they have now. And then they're delivering you food, and they're going to do some other things. And then now they're doing things with transportation, like we talked about. They're big, and they're going to have their own scooters, their own bikes, their own other thing. But I think when you look at that and you see that's a heavy lift, right? That's a lot of work to get a lot of people on board. It's a lot of lobbying. Like Travis in the early days is lobbying to make sure that Perez doesn't shut down his operation. But that's still I think it's pretty inspiring still, because it's inspiring that somebody would take it on the chin and go off and just do something. And again, I think it is a noble effort. Transportation is important. You saw it with the Lyft study. But I do think healthcare is more important. And I think all the people in this room can help us reinvent healthcare, but it does need to be a complete reinvention. It's a completely broken system. I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm not going to, I think it's a completely broken system. I think it's completely not modern. I think the world today revolves around phones and revolves around getting an email that says your thing is in process, and all the things that the Uber does and the rating system, all of it is completely reinvented and modern, and yet healthcare isn't. I go to this doctor that send me over to imaging. None of my stuff's on my phone. I have to have to do a lot of work to get all that information. But there are pockets of great stuff that are happening too, because with my Apple Watch, I can do a lot of stuff and I can get a lot of information, but it's still not all coming together. And I think it takes everybody in this room, plus other innovators and startups and venture capitalists, to really say, look, how are we going to completely modernize the stack, and how are we going to fix it end to end? And that, to me, is not just the technology stack, and it's not just the platform of people on the service side, it's the complete user experience. What is the consumer experience end to end? And I don't even mean the UX and the UI alone. I mean the service model. I don't have to call somebody when I go to certain modern businesses today. I can chat with them. There's just stuff that happens at a certain speed with which consumers consume things these days, and healthcare is not one of those things, right? Another example is just Airbnb, same exact problem. Let's reinvent the entire hotel and hospitality world. Let's position it differently. Let's market it differently. Let's have a brand that's verticalized. Let's lobby. Let's get thrown out of cities because nobody wants Airbnbs, and let's fight. Well, are we doing that? I'd say yes, pockets of companies are doing it, and they're big companies doing X and Y. but it needs to be a bunch of people working together to completely do this and change the service model. Because this is the one thing that should be modern, and it should be awesome, and it should be daily, and that's why it is life care and not sick care. So that's it. Those are my comments.
Excellent.
I have an opinion on things, but I just think it should be as easy as everything else that I'm experiencing now. So that's just my, I don't think we can do it. I just think it's a heavy lift.
Thank you. Ma'am.
So I agree, healthcare is broken, and I agree that the opportunity is pretty amazing. I'm a first timer, so this is my first time here, and it was just incredible. I learned so much, and I really want to congratulate you and your team for putting together this event. So 3 things. I had 3 takeaways. Just sitting and listening to the conversation during the day. Something that really emerged for me, and you don't hear this a lot in healthcare conferences, but this notion of the whole person and how much time we spent on life care and the whole person, as opposed to just improving clinical care, but looking at mental health and physical health and clinical all at the same time. 2 more things. The role of data and how it's necessary to make all of those improvements possible. And again, I'm the policy person in the room, but I think about we've got a lot to do in that area to really realize the vision, whether it's getting access to it, because we don't have access to it, the information blocking issues, the competitive issues we talked about, making it usable for computing. I loved the data panel. I wish we could have spent 2 more hours on the data panel. We talked about standards and the need for interoperability. And then, of course, the third most important thing is protecting it. And we talked a lot about privacy and security today. And then the third thing that I would say, a common theme across all of the talks was really the common challenge across all of our discussions was that around payment. And for those of you who've been innovating in this area or a policy person in this area, we've been talking about payment for a long time. This fee-for-service system and how it doesn't reward these technologies. And I'm encouraged for the first time. I think in the last year, we've seen a lot of progress in this area. So I think there's hope, whether it's, and who knows, we're running out of time, the transitions to outcome-based payment, the acceptance and encouragement of telehealth, a lot of that, both in Medicare and Medicaid and the commercial employers and plans. And then finally, and I think this is very relevant, the recognition of the role of non-medical supports. We're seeing a lot of that. So I think there's a lot of hope in terms of payment challenges.
I have 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. I'll speak slowly then. I'll tell some jokes. No, in '98, I was sitting down with my boss at the time, Bill Gates, and I was running mobile at Microsoft, and we started getting excited about the potential. And he said something along the lines of, everybody's overshooting in the long run and undershooting overshooting in the short run and undershooting in the long run. I mean, it seems that at one level, the big reset point, the complete redoing or remaking of healthcare industry is upon us in the next 2 weeks. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen in 2 weeks. But at the same time, if we look at what healthcare is going to be in 2028, I think we're going to be surprised by how far it advanced. So if you go back to everybody, we have doctors, engineers, computer scientists. I'm an engineer by training, so I can tell you that it's hard to even think about that. But 20 years ago, there were competing standards for internet communication. TCP/IP was not the only one. If it was not the only one, we wouldn't have had internet today. HTML was not the only one to create websites. I mean, there were a bunch of companies that are no longer with us, like AOL, etc., that had different ideas about how to build websites. So, as much as every company wants to build their own silos and win with the silo, you need some sort of a platform to look at the common pieces and try to either standardize or compel people to standardize around that. And I think that at the end of the day, and Leslie and I talked about it yesterday or 2 days ago, this is the charter of the people here on both sides of the stage. And the Center for Body Computing is really much more than just that. It's really the place where you can look at digital health without necessarily the orientation of a specific commercial company or entity, and trying to bring a bunch of parties together so you can remove some of those roadblocks. It's true that in 2028 we're going to be amazed by how far we made advances, but it's not going to happen on its own. And sorry to drop it on you, Leslie, but you're in charge, so you have to navigate.
Okay, well, just, there's only one thing in our way, and it's green. It's funding. But there are lots of successful companies here that we want to partner with. We want to be everyone's innovation partner. Look, it's very tragic to spend your life sweating over cardiac procedures in patients, feeling like you're doing amazing things. And you are doing amazing things and having amazing experiences. I'm convinced we have the best healthcare system in the world and not getting the outcomes that you need. You've got the best experts, the best technology, the biggest hearts, the best work ethic, and an incredible group of patients who you are impacting. We impact patients in traditional healthcare all the time, but we just can't pull it all together, and it's a huge, it's a huge challenge, not to mention who we can't touch. So again, we always, and maybe it's crazy, Carol, compared to the national health system, but I'm always like, I hate those guys. It should be the Four Seasons for everyone. I have this naive idea that this allows us to, that Uber service that anyone with $7 can get, we can do for healthcare. And I think that's our challenge. A lot of times we beat up on healthcare, and I spent most of my, traditional healthcare, so most of my life in it. People really care about it. But I think people at Google and people at Apple really care about it too. So, I'm hoping that between all of us, it feels like it's starting to break open this year. I think everybody's been here many years feels that way. So Abbott's next to technology. Everybody wants to talk, and our role is to help that happen and do the research. So that's what we want to do, and we want to do it for everybody.